Hey everyone, welcome to another Singularity Computers archive video. This one is from a couple of years ago when I was doing some upgrades and making some changes to my HTPC build. I first built this system way back in 2011, not long after I started my channel. So this is actually one of the first personal builds that I ever did on my channel, and you can find the original build log for it. I'll put a link on the screen. This is a very interesting little build because it's built into the Danger Den LAN Tower 450 watt. And because Danger Den doesn't exist anymore, a lot of their products have become rare collector's items. Particularly this case, I've had a lot of requests for it over the years because this is actually a special edition that Danger Den did just for me. It's built completely from smoked acrylic. And you can see that this is a very beautiful, elegant little ITX case. And I really think that a lot of Danger Den's products were ahead of their time, particularly their cases. I mean, if you consider that this case was first built, I think, back in 2010. This is long before ITX even became popular. I mean, put it this way, this case would have done a lot better now than it did back then. Very simple design, but elegant, understated, everything that we like to build now. But back at this time, if you consider what this was up against, I mean, this is back when, before cable sleeving even took hold. We had multicolored wires. It was before we were building clean, understated systems. And I mean, the cases at this time still had silver internals. And it was certainly before ITX had become popular. And Zotac was actually building high-end ITX boards before anybody else. If you wanted a high-end ITX board with features, at this time, Zotac was the only way to go. This is the Zotac Z68 ITX Wi-Fi Supreme, and it was a couple of years after this when we started to see more high-end gaming and overclocking oriented ITX motherboards. And this case was actually designed around this particular Silverstone 450 watt power supply. That's why this case is called the Danger Den LAN Tower 450, because this was also the only powerful small form factor power supply. So, interesting little case. You can see that I have a Western Digital 2TB green hard drive, an OCZ Vertex 2 60GB SSD for the OS, 8GB of Corsair memory. I have the Intel Core i3-2100 cooled by the Corsair H100. So, definitely not necessary. I just installed it because I could, but it does show what this case is capable of. It does fit a water cooling system. Now, this video was actually filmed immediately after the SC archive video that I uploaded recently. So that one was covering Cytotoxic Client Build 8, which you can see here. And I literally filmed that video, pushed Cytotoxic to the side, and then started filming this one. So they were both filmed at the same time. So these are the new components I'm going to be installing. I'm going to replace the Corsair H100 with the Noctua NHC12P SE14. I'm not yet sure if this cooler will actually fit, so I do have another option if it doesn't. I'm also going to add 2 more hard drives because this case fits up to 3 3.5-inch hard drives. The Western Digital Red 4TB and the green 3TB. Now the motherboard does have Wi-Fi, but it's wireless N, so I'm going to be upgrading it to wireless AC. I'm installing an Asus Wireless AC 1900 PCIe card. So that's going to be a nice speed upgrade. So I've started dismantling the build, and the first thing that I've done is remove the Corsair H100 and the fans from the front of the build, also all of the hard drives. And you can see how much space there is in the front of this case. I mean, you can definitely fit a compact water cooling system into this case, and possibly even a 60mm thick 240mm radiator and fans. So it brings a lot of ideas to mind, and I'm really excited about upgrading this system again. It's definitely due for a major upgrade: CPU, motherboard, memory, power supply, the whole lot. And so I think this is definitely not the last you're going to be seeing of this system. I'd like to do another upgrade soon and build a compact water cooling system into it. I think that'd be a great project. There's so many other things I'd like to do for a HTPC build, but because this is such a rare collector's item case and it's such a beautiful case, I do want to stick with it. And it's very compact, it just really does work well as a HTPC system. So the Noctua cooler doesn't fit. It was too high, too wide, hit the memory and the hard drives. And it turns out ProLimitek sent me a cooler which I never thought I was actually going to have the opportunity to use because of the systems that I normally build. But it turns out it was almost like this cooler was designed for this build. It's a perfect fit. And this is the ProLimitek Samuel 17. It's a great looking cooler, very compact, low profile, fits a 120mm fan, which is a great feature for a cooler of this size. And, very high performance design, 6 heat pipes, they look like 6mm, it's all nickel plated. Very nice looking cooler, and it's going to fit perfectly into this build. And I was thinking about using it without a fan, but ProLimitek also sent me some of their low profile fans, 120mm fans that are 15mm thick. And I'm very surprised at the specifications that they are able to achieve even with their low profile fans. And one of the main things that I wanted to do with this upgrade is make the build a lot quieter. That's why I was thinking about using this cooler without a fan. I mean, there's still the little fan on the motherboard, but that is a very quiet fan. They're not usually quiet, but on this motherboard it is. The Animax fans that I had on the H100 were very loud, and it was something that I really wanted to change. So one of the big things about this little upgrade is quietening this system down a lot. So you can see how well the cooler fits. It comes right up to the edge of the motherboard heatsink. Perfect fit there. It fits over the memory just. And it comes very close to the hard drives. So it's an ideal cooler for this system. Also low profile, plenty of room above it. So I decided not to install the third hard drive. It's just not going to be necessary. I don't need that much space. I was going to move the SSD on top of the power supply, but I'm not going to need to now. This case doesn't have any 2.5-inch mounting positions because, well, SSDs back in these days were not that popular, very expensive option. So this is a great looking wireless AC card, and it's going to be a nice addition. Great looking heatsink. I mean, it's red. It'd be really nice to do a proper color scheme in this build. I mean, that's something that I can do next time, because with the smoked acrylic case, something like white coolant, black and white, would look really nice. So this is the fan I'm going to be using from ProLimitek, PWM, 400 to 1300 RPM, 7 to 17 decibels, 56 CFM, and 0.9mm H2O. Very amazing specs to achieve on a 15mm thick fan when, normally 120mm fans are 25mm thick. I've installed the fan and the wireless AC card, and the build is starting to take shape. There's only one more component to install before these upgrades are complete. So you can see the fan blows straight down onto the motherboard heatsink and fan. It's cooling obviously the CPU, but the memory and the motherboard, and creating enough airflow as well to cool the hard drive. So I'm not going to install any other fans into this build. It's just going to be the 3 fans, the CPU fan, the motherboard fan, and there's also obviously one on the power supply, but that doesn't involve the case. It draws air up from underneath and pushes it straight out of the back. There's so many things that I'd love to do to this system looking at it now, and I cannot wait to upgrade it again. I mean, the first and most important thing is a modular power supply. Custom cables, all customized to length, sleeved, strict color scheme, full upgrade, CPU, motherboard, memory, power supply, even the hard drive and SSD. I'd like to use an M.2 SSD. And I could even install a graphics card, because this system fits a full-length graphics card, although that may start to interfere with the water cooling system. So you can see I did install Bitfinex Alchemy SATA data cables, so they are sleeved. That's a start, starting to head in the right direction there. But anyway, the final component I'm installing is dust filters, and I'm not actually installing these dust filters to prevent dust. First of all, I'm not a fan of dust filters. They only delay the process. I mean, you're always going to get dust in your build pretty much no matter what. You may gain yourself a couple of months before you need to dust clean by installing dust filters, but it's still going to happen. And to me, dust filters are usually such a big sacrifice to the aesthetics that it's just not worth it. In my opinion, there's something that is not really important at all. Considering, you know, the maintenance that I do to my builds, cleaning out a little bit of dust is really not a problem. But I'm installing them into this build because where this system is going to go, we live in the tropics, we have a lot of bugs. There's also the kids throwing things around. So, you know, there's fairly big gaps in this case, and I wanted the front to be sealed up, even though I'm not installing any fans there. And, you know, there's going to be basically no air movement in or out of this case. I guess a fan, at least one on the front there, blowing into the hard drives would have been good to create some positive pressure for dust prevention. But that's it. I've installed those dust filters, and you can see another nice feature that this case has is a small gap between the front panel and the front panel cover, which allows you to install dust filters in between. So they're completely hidden there, very well thought out, and a nice little feature. And originally I had a DMCI dust filter installed there, a 240mm one, which I cut down to size. But because you have to stick on the magnetic strip with adhesive, that was starting to fall off. I much prefer dust filters that bolt on. So that's why I really like these Silverstone 120mm filters. So that's about it. The upgrades are complete. And that is it until the next upgrade. I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember, none of this would be possible without our patrons. So a massive thanks to them. Also a big thanks to ProLimitek for sending out these components. Thanks for watching.